equanimity, free from bias, attachment, and hatred. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer of the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer of the Shakya clan, I prostrate, make offerings, and go for refuge. To the founder, endowed, transcendent destroyer, the one gone beyond, the foe destroyer, the completely perfected, fully awakened being, perfect in knowledge and in good conduct, Sugata, knower of the world, supreme guide of human beings to be tamed, teacher of gods and human beings, to you, the completely and fully awakened one, the endowed, transcendent destroyer, the glorious conqueror, the subduer of the Shakya clan, they make offerings and go for refuge. When, O Supreme among humans, you were born on this earth, you paced out 7 strides, then said, I am supreme in this world. To you who are wise, then I prostrate. With pure bodies, form supremely pure, wisdom ocean like a golden mountain, fame that blazes in the 3 worlds, winner of the best Lord, to you I prostrate. With the supreme signs, face like spotless moon, color like gold, to you I prostrate. Dust free like you, the 3 worlds are not. Incomparably wise one, to you I prostrate. The Savior having great compassion, the Founder having all understanding, the field of merit with qualities like a vast ocean. To you, the one gone to thusness, I prostrate. The purity that frees one from attachment, the virtue that frees one from the lower realms, the one path, the sublime pure reality. To the Dharma that pacifies, I prostrate. Those who are liberated and also show the path to liberation, the holy field qualified with realizations, who are devoted to the moral precepts. To you, the sublime community intending virtue, I prostrate. Homage to the Supreme Buddha, homage to the Dharma refuge, homage to the great Sangha, to all 3 ever devout homage, to all worthy of respect, bowing with bodies as many as all realms atoms in all aspects, with supreme faith I pay homage. Do not commit any non-virtuous actions, perform only virtuous actions, subdue your mind thoroughly. This is the teachings of the Buddha. A star, a mirage, the flame of a lamp, an illusion, a drop of dew or a bubble, a dream, a flash of lightning, a cloud. See conditioned things as such. Through these merits may sentient beings attain the rank of all-seeing, subdue the foe of faults, and be delivered from samsara's ocean, perturbed by the waves of aging, sickness, and death. From Tushita's hundreds of gods protect his heart, to tip of this fresh, pure, white heap, good like cloud. Olo Sangrakpa, Dharma's omniscient King, pray come to this place with your disciples. In space ahead, on lion throne, lotus and moon, venerable Guru, smile brightly with delight. Praise stay hundreds of eons to spread doctrine as supreme merit, field for my mind of faith. Your wisdom mind sees full range of knowables. Your eloquent speech adorns fortunateous. Your beauteous body, fame, glory outstanding. Homage to you, worthwhile to think of, hear and see. Pleasure made life essence full. O protector from depths of our hearts, we rejoice in your powerful great deeds. Venerable gurus from love and wisdom, clouds densely massed in your Dharma kaya sky, preludes a rain of vast profound Dharma on fields of disciples just as needed. May whatever virtue that I fear gathered bring benefit to all beings and doctrine, and may it make venerable Losang Dragpa's essential teaching specially shine forever. Meek may say wait generesic dream and pay wang po jam pel yang pung malu jom de sang weda gang chen ke pei zu gian song kapa lo sang drak pe jabla so wade. O glorious and precious root guru, great exit of lotus on my crown, caring for me with your great kindness, bestow attainments of body, speech, and mind. O glorious and precious root guru, great exit of lotus at my heart, caring for me with your great kindness, bestow attainments common and soon. O glorious and precious root guru, great exit of lotus at my heart, caring for me with your great kindness, until supreme awakening remains steadfast. Homage to the exalted three jewels. Thus have I heard at one time the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajagriha on Balcham mountain, together with a great assembly of monks and a great assembly of bodhisattvas. At that time the Blessed One was absorbed in the concentration of the countless aspects of phenomena called profound illumination. At that very time the superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, was looking perfectly at the practice of profound perfection of wisdom, perfectly looking at the emptiness of inherent existence of the five aggregates also. Then, through the power of the Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said to the superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, how should a child of the lineage train who wishes to engage in the practice of profound perfection of wisdom? Thus he spoke, and the superior Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, replied to the Venerable Shariputra as follows: Shariputra, whichever son or daughter of the lineage wishes to engage in the practice of the profound perfection of wisdom should look perfectly like this. Subsequently, looking perfectly and correctly at the emptiness of inherent existence of the five aggregates also. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form, form is not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, like this, all phenomena are empty, without characteristics. That is, they are not produced and do not cease. They have no defilement and no separation from defilement. They have no decrease and no increase. Shariputra, and emptiness happiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness. There is no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visible form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no object of touch, no mental phenomena. There is no I element and so forth up to no mind element, up to no element of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance and no cessation of ignorance, and so forth up to no aging and death and no cessation of aging and death. Likewise, there is no suffering, no origin, no cessation, and no path, no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because there is no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and abide in the perfection of wisdom, and because their minds have no obstructions, they have no fear. Passing utterly beyond error, they attain the final state beyond sorrow. All the Buddhas who reside in the three times by relying upon the perfection of wisdom become manifest and complete Buddhas in the state of unsurpassed, perfect and complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the equal to the unequaled mantra, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all sufferings and is not false, should be known as the truth. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is proclaimed. Tayata gate gate paragate parasamgate bodhisoha. Shariputra, this is how Bodhisattva, a great being, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom. Then the Blessed One arose from that concentration and said to the superior Avatishvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, well said, O child of the lineage, so it is. The profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced exactly as you have taught, and the Tathagatas will rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, the Venerable Shariputra, the superior Avatishvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, and the entire assembly, as well as worldly beings, gods, humans, demigods, Gandharvas, and others, were filled with admiration and highly praised what had been spoken by the Blessed One. In the holy supreme abode of the Dakinis, possessed of clairvoyance and miraculous power, unwaveringly caring for practitioners as your children, homage to the hosts of the three places Dakinis. Akasamaracha Sadara Samariyepe. Akasamaracha Sararayape. Dayata Om Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhisoha. Through the power of the truth of the exalted three jewel speech, may all on the side of negativity, such as the four maras, be stopped. May they become non-existent. May they become pacified. All enemies, obstructors, and hindrances, Shanti, Kuriya, Soha. The 80,000 types of obstructors pacified, freed from adverse harmful conditions. May all be conducive in perfect auspiciousness, bring happiness and well-being here, right now. Saji Poki Jokching Me Tok Dramri Roha Blingji Ni Sangye chodan choki chonam la janshu badu dagni gyap suchi dagi chunyen gi pe sonam ki drola penche sangye drupa sho chodan choki chonam la janshu badu dagni gyap suchi dagi chunyen gi pe sonam ki drola penche sangye drupa sho Chodan choki chonam la janchu badu dagni gyap suchi dagi junyen gi pe sonam ki drola penche sangye drupa sho.
So let's meditate for a few minutes. Sit up straight, and if you're in a chair, try to keep your feet flat on the floor. So find your breath. That means focus on the spot where your breath goes out and comes in through your nostrils. You can just feel the movement of the air at that spot. So that's the focus or the object of your concentration. And then try to keep your breath there. Try to keep your concentration, your focus there for as long as you can without getting distracted. When you notice that you've become distracted, that your mind's gone off your breath, following some thought or other or something, and just drop the distraction immediately and just come straight back to your breath. So you may need to do that over and over again, but that's the meditation. if you've done this meditation effectively, your mind should be a little calmer and clearer than it was. So it's a good opportunity to look into it, see what's there. The main thing we're interested in is motivation. The reason we're here this morning. So ask yourself, why did I come to the center this morning? So basically, from the Buddhist point of view, there are four main kinds of motivation, reasons for coming to a place like this, for a class like this. So the first level of motivation is just seeking some benefit or looking for some result simply for this life alone, with no thought of anything beyond this life. And the next level of motivation. So that first one, that worldly motivation, is not really considered a positive action, a Dharma action. That's sort of mundane motivation and is normally based in attachment, one of the three principal, one of the three poisonous minds, or one of the three fundamental mental mistakes or delusions: ignorance, attachment, and aversion. So attachment is rooted in ignorance, and attachment simply seeks benefit in this life alone. It seeks happiness, comfort, pleasure, profit in just this life. So that's not a spiritual action, that's not a religious action, it's just an ordinary action. And following motivation like that, acting on that impulse, leaves a negative imprint in our consciousness, leaves an imprint in our consciousness that we call negative. We call it negative because we're acting in the hope of getting happiness, but in fact we're creating the cause of suffering. That imprint, like planting a seed, is going to ripen into experience of suffering at some point in the future. So that's one kind of motivation. That's the motivation we don't want to follow. then there are three different levels of positive motivation which are aimed at getting results beyond this life. So the first is, I'm coming here to the centre to do this class, to think about the Dharma and Buddhist teachings in order to get better future lives in cyclic existence. So I don't want to be born in the lower realms, like the animal realms, in future. So I need to practice Dharma. To practice Dharma, I need to learn something about it, so I'm coming to a Dharma class. And there can be that kind of motivation, so it's positive. And higher than that, positive motivation higher than that, is so I'm coming here. I don't want to be born anywhere in cyclic existence, even if I don't get born in the lower realms, get born in the upper realms, like this life. Still, I'm going to die and probably be reborn in the lower realms after that. So what I need to do is escape from cyclic existence altogether. So again, in order to do that, I need to practice Dharma. In order to practice Dharma, I need to study Dharma, I need to meditate. And gradually, by following that path, I can be completely free from beginningless samsara, or cyclic existence, free of suffering forever. So of the three levels of positive motivation, that's the middle one. And higher than that, the highest level of motivation would be, it's not sufficient for me simply to free myself from cyclic existence, to free myself from suffering, and leave all the other sentient beings behind, because all my past, present and future happiness has come in dependence upon all the other sentient beings. So to think of only myself and not the others is selfish and cruel. And the purpose of my life actually is to free all sentient beings from suffering. Now the only way I can do that is by becoming enlightened, by becoming a Buddha myself. So in order to become enlightened, I have to follow and actualize the entire path to enlightenment. So in order to do that, I have to practice Dharma. In order to practice Dharma, I have to study and understand the teachings. So that's why I'm coming to the Dharma class. So each of those three levels of positive motivation leaves an appropriate imprint on our consciousness that will ripen to bring that result. The thing is, if we motivate to the highest level of motivation to reach enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings, those other levels of result will come by the way, sort of automatically. Better future lives and liberation from cyclic existence. So it makes more sense to, go for the gold from the outset. And the silver and bronze will follow. So if we find our level of motivation is the first one, the worldly motivation, then we should recognize that as negative, as a cause of suffering, and chuck it out. Okay, that was there, but I'm not going to follow that in order to reach enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. So this center was established with that motivation in mind, enlightenment of all sentient beings, and the things that are done here are done with that intention. So we should set our minds in harmony with all that. So think, I'm here to reach enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. So whenever we come here, when we're on the way, even if we left home without thinking that was kind of automatic, we should try and think, I'm going there in order to reach enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. And of course we should try and make that the motivation for everything we do. So also try to make that motivation not kind of simply intellectual in your head, but try to feel it from your heart. Okay, thanks. You're hiding on purpose? Or? There's one there, or you can move it around. Not that I'm much to look at, but I wouldn't mind looking at you. Actually, those are the cheap seats, like at Fenway, obstructed view. So maybe in this case it's desirable, but we should pay more for those. Okay, it's better, more or less. Okay, so there's not really any topic this morning. It was kind of Geshe-la's gone to Germany for teachings with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So as usual, they kind of scraped the bottom of the barrel and came up with me again. So here we are. Any new people here? And how long have you been a person? No. That's what we say, new people. It's kind of like old people. So you've not been here before? You've been to another centre?
I've been to Shambhala.
Oh, in Boston?
Yes, Brookline.
In Brookline, yeah. It's very different here? Maybe a little bit.
It is different, yes.
Yeah. How about you? You been here before?
No.
Me? Yeah, you.
No, this first time.
First time?
Yeah.
Where are you from?
China.
China.
China itself?
No, I come
Mainland?
from China just for a trip here.
Yeah.
So as my brother and here, and he it's raining here, so I come to here and then study.
You going back?
Yeah, and end of this month I go back.
So how's Buddhism in China these days?
Yeah.
How is Buddhism in China? Is there some Buddhism in?
Yeah, I cannot say well, but we studied this in China.
Whereabouts in China?
Yeah?
Where? Beijing?
No, Shandong, Qingdao.
Chengdu?
Yeah, do you know Qingdao?
Yeah, I've been there. All the time. Anyway, welcome.
Thank you.
Any questions? Really, no questions?
So I understand the worldly motivation and the other motivations,
Yeah.
but it's not clear to me why it's a negative motivation. It's also a little discouraging. If you think you're going to get anything out of this in this lifetime, you know, why is it a negative motivation specifically?
Why? I think there are a couple of reasons. First, like as I mentioned, it's really rooted in attachment. Attachment is, by definition, a negative mind. It's a mind that doesn't see reality. And so there are a couple of. Have you been studying Buddhism for a while? Or? So there are a couple of, I say, key concepts that Buddhism talks about the nature of the mind that you don't find in most other places. Certainly not the way Buddhism explains it. One is mental continuity, it's past and future lives, that the mind is beginningless and endless. Each individual stream of consciousness has no beginning and has no end. You familiar with that?
Universal to all lineages?
No, let's ask all the other lineages. Mental continuity, past lives, future lives? Yeah. You study that in Theravada? Yeah. I think if any Buddhist lineage isn't teaching that, then it's not a Buddhist lineage. You come from another lineage, or you studied with somewhere else, or they never talked about it, or what? Well, without that, it's like nothing makes sense in the Buddhist teachings at all, really. If you don't... there are two ways of looking at it. First of all, nothing makes sense. And the other is, it's not really a question of whether you believe in it or not. It's a question of looking and seeing. I remember many years ago, there was a meditation course in Nepal with Lama Zopa Rinpoche. And he was talking, it was early in the course, and he was talking about nature of the mind and mental continuity and stuff. And somebody asked him a question, is it necessary to believe in reincarnation in order to reach enlightenment? And then he pointed at, it was in a tent in the back of the monastery in Nepal. There was a couple hundred people there. The temple was too small. And it was actually the first course that we'd had in the tent, sort of outgrown the temple. And he pointed at it. There was a decoration with flowers around. There was a clay pot, in the shape of an elephant, with flowers growing out. And then he pointed to that and he said, it's like, it's not a question of believing if that elephant is there or not, that flower pot is there or not. It's a question of seeing reality. So, and this is one of the first things you hear about. Then you have, and this is, brings up the sort of the three levels of wisdom or understanding that Buddhism talks about. There's the wisdom of hearing, the wisdom of contemplation, and the wisdom of meditation. You heard of these three? You have? So what's the first one? The wisdom of hearing. Yeah. You said you've heard of these three.
Heard of them.
You don't know what they are, but you've heard of them.
Well, the wisdom of receiving, and is that
Like, say, well, in my case, I showed up at a meditation course there in Nepal 40-something years ago. And, sat in front of Lama's open, he started speaking all this weird stuff, that I'd never heard of before. And one of the things was reincarnation, or past and future lives. I was like, it was a new concept to me. So just hearing that there was such a concept is kind of the wisdom of hearing. You hear something for the first time that you didn't know about. At the very simplest level, you don't know the result of the Red Sox game yesterday or last night, whenever it was, and somebody tells you. So that was the wisdom of hearing. You didn't know that, and now you know it. As depressing as it might be, but usually. So the wisdom of hearing is when you hear something for the first time. Oh, I didn't know about that. Or, Buddhism, the Buddhist worldview is, I mentioned cyclic existence, or samsara, the wheel of life. There's a diagram of it out there. But there are 6 realms that sentient beings live in, like the human realm, or the animal realm, or the 3 lower realms, the ones I mentioned we don't want to be born in, the first level of positive motivation, hell realm, hungry ghost realm. So people, hungry ghosts, what's that, or hell realm, that's Christianity, so there's these different concepts that we hear about for the first time, or God realms, So if you didn't know about it before and you hear about it, then that's a level of wisdom, something that's been revealed to you at a very superficial level. But that's the beginning. So then you think, oh, that doesn't sound likely. Maybe and often our sort of knee-jerk reaction is to reject something that we've never heard before, something that, our parents never taught us, we never learned at school or university. You never read about it in the papers, you don't see about it on TV, so it seems like, if there were really past and future lives, everyone would be talking about it, So it must be wrong. So there's this, in my case anyway, sort of feeling to reject it. In fact, when that first course that I went to in 1972, there was a lot of this Buddhist teachings I was hearing for the first time, and not being as humble as I ought to be, and quite actually fond of displaying my ignorance, I was challenging Lama Zopa as he was teaching. I was saying, but what about this? And I was thinking, well, I'm this kind of university-educated doctor, and he's this like Himalayan monk who's got no education. So of course I know more than he does. So he was saying this, and I was kind of challenging. And I really thought for a while there that I was the person that Buddhism had been waiting for 2,500 years to prove it wrong. So, it was, and he was kind of patient, but the other students weren't there. Everyone was telling me to shut up, so eventually I shut up, But, so there is this kind of, in some of us, in me anyway, is sort of this response to reject something that sounds so strange, or if I must be wrong. Otherwise, if it was right, I'd know about it, So it's pretty arrogant, really. So then, but there's a doubt arises that, well, maybe there are past and future lives, maybe there are not. It's either one thing or the other, really. There's probably not really a third alternative. So doubt can be good or bad. If doubt is left unresolved, then you sort of become a little paralyzed. Should I? Shouldn't I? But one of the great Indian scholars said, those who doubt powerfully have the ability to realize the truth, but only if they investigate their doubts. So, something like that. So doubt is good as long as then we try to come to a conclusion. Is it or isn't it? So that leads us to the next level of wisdom. It's called the wisdom of contemplation. You think about it. Okay, are there future lives or not? What does that mean? What does it even mean, past and future lives? What was in the past and what's going to be in the future? So past and future lives, or reincarnation, or rebirth. The question is, what is it that's reborn? Clearly, it's not the body, because the body, started with a parent's sperm and egg, and it grew from a baby to a child and adult, and then it gets old and decrepit, and then it dies, and ashes to ashes, dust to dust. So obviously, the body's not going to go to the next life. By the end of your life, you wouldn't want it to. It's like that. What's that Brad Pitt film? Benjamin Button. Yeah, he's like born old and he ages in reverse. So I can't remember the Woody Allen quote, but he actually said it would be quite good to. Well, no, he said it'd be good to be old and then get younger, because anyway, whatever. So he traced the whole thing in reverse as a positive way. So then it comes to the thing, well, what is a person? What is a being? These beings that get reincarnated. So from a Buddhist point of view, what makes up a person is a body and a mind. So if it's not the body that is reborn, it must be the mind. So then leads the question, what is the mind? So the Buddhist definition of the mind, in its very simplest form, is two words: clear and knowing. People come here regularly know that. Clear and knowing. So what does that mean? The mind, it means mind is formless. It has no shape or colour. It's not made of physical matter, no atom, molecules. You can't see it with your senses. Clear, it's formless, like empty space. But it's not empty space because it has this other quality, the second quality of knowing, or cognition, or the awareness, or the ability to perceive objects. So that's what the mind is. It's a formless entity that has the ability to perceive objects. If you know that much about the mind, you know more than any Western trained psychologist or most ordinary people that haven't studied Buddhism. That is the mind, clear and knowing. Formless entity that has the ability to perceive objects. And then if you go a little further into the mind, which I'll stop here, but there are two divisions. There are 6 primary or principal consciousnesses. So they're the 5 sight, smell, hearing, taste and touch, the 5 sense consciousness and the mental consciousness. And then there are 51 mental factors. So that's the sort of the anatomy of the mind. And if we look at our own mind, just as we try to do when we're meditating, we see that it's just like this formless energy is like it's a stream. We talk about the stream of consciousness. So, and if you really try to catch it or look at it, you see that there's nothing really there that isn't either the thought moment that just finished or the one that hasn't come yet. So it's like a river or a waterfall. It's constantly flowing. So this is why we meditate, you know, and we hear these things about the mind, you know, and if they're new, that's what we contemplate for the wisdom of contemplation, you know, to try and understand, to resolve our doubts about it. So part of resolving the doubt about whether there's, you know, rebirth or mental continuity, past lives, future lives, we say here, okay, well, it's not the body, it's the mind. So then what is the mind? Well, the mind is formless, it's this and that. So we hear so all these concepts that we hear that may arouse doubt in us, we have to think about and resolve. So with the wisdom of contemplation, we try to come to a conclusion. Is the mind a formless stream of energy, has ability to perceive objects? Yes or no? Does it have a beginning, or does it not have a beginning? So if we want to postulate it has a beginning, we have to identify the beginning, say what it was. Where did it come from? How did it start? What was the first thought? If that was the first thought, where did the second thought come from? Is it the same for everybody? Is it different for every? I mean, there are a lot of questions arise. If you want to postulate a beginning to the mind, there are a lot more questions than if there's no beginning to the mind. Anyway, so the wisdom of contemplation is trying to come to a conclusion. So if a conclusion we come to, say if we think we've thought about it, we've analysed, you know, with logic as much as we can about the nature of the mind and so on, and we conclude, no way the mind exists only in this life, you know. There's no way that something formless can come from something physical like the brain. You know, there's a lot of arguments on that side too. So if we come to the conclusion the mind must be beginningless and endless, there must be mental continuity, and that conclusion is different from what we sort of habitually have believed, then we have to focus, we have to meditate on that correct conclusion to sort of burn it into we have to focus on the wisdom so that it displaces the ignorance that's in our mind, the ignorance of that topic. So that's the wisdom of meditation. And gradually that becomes a clearer and clearer intellectual understanding, and ultimately it becomes what we call a realization, where it becomes a sort of I'll say permanent part of our mind, a permanent part of our understanding. It'll never go away. So for that to happen, then, you know, like we're doing before, we're meditating on the breath, trying to develop focus or concentration. So these are the two kinds of meditation. There's analytical meditation, where we try to develop the wisdom of contemplation. So you hear about something, you think about it, and you come to a conclusion. So that's analytical meditation. You analyze the concepts to get to the right answer. And then the other form of concentration we call, you know, concentration meditation, or placement meditation, or fixed meditation, or stabilizing, a lot of different words for the same thing, where we place our mind on the correct conclusion that we've arrived at and focus on that for as long as we can, because that's the right answer to this particular question. And it's not what we automatically believe, and it's not what we automatically act out of. So that way we arrive at the wisdom of meditation. So why is attachment negative?
last question, as arrogance or doubt is problematic to begin with, but I'm not. No, I know. But I don't think, attachment is something we avoided. I think part of the nature of my question was more about in seeking any benefits in this life, even if it's a lesser motivation, and not maybe it is a lesser motivation. One needs to work towards the higher motivations, but I'm trying to understand what would be the specific attachment. Is the idea that this life is an attachment, whereas the longer future full enlightenment is a more worthy. Is there something intrinsically negative about being attached to, well, I'm going to phrase that. I mean, if one is seeking lessening of suffering within this world, this life, is that intrinsically negative, even though it's not the highest aspiration?
The attachment that I'm talking about, that's negative, is it's very narrow, and it ignores the larger reality that there's more than one life, and it thinks that this life is the only thing worth worrying about. So it's kind of like getting an inheritance and blowing it all, and then being bereft after all, everything's gone. It comes from the ignorance of reality, that there's more to this, there's more than this life. So attachment, as I said, it comes from ignorance, and ignorance is not understanding the nature of the mind or the nature of the self. So, and this was the kind of the key wisdom that the Buddha tried to explain, that this feeling, this innate feeling that we have of a real permanent I, or a real permanent self, is mistaken. So, we have this feeling that within us somewhere there's an I. We I, me, mine. We feel that somehow beyond the body and the mind there's another entity there that's me, that's the self, and that this is kind of independent of the body and mind, that it's real, that it's something unchanging. We say, last week I did this, next year I'm going to do that, as if there's this real person within us. But if we look for that, if we look for it, we can't find it in the body. There's nothing unchanging in the body. It's just atoms and molecules, and it's disintegrating all the time. And as I said before, it's not in the mind. It can't be in the mind either, because the mind is this constantly changing stream of consciousness. So there's no third place this strong feeling of I can be. If it's not in the body, if it's not in the mind, there's nowhere else it can be. The conclusion is it doesn't actually exist. It's a delusion. It's a fiction. It's something that, and we've been doing this since beginning of this time, our mind, and we're born with it, this ignorance that labels a permanent self on to the ever-changing reality of body and mind. Yet, so our ignorance projects me, I, the self, onto our ever-changing, impermanent body and mind, and then having projected there, the self that we've projected, our mind has projected, appears back as if it's real, and we believe it's there. So attachment is working for that self that doesn't exist. So you know, it's like working for a boss who doesn't exist, so you actually never get paid. So, and also, the nature of attachment is to unrealistically exaggerate the positive aspects of whatever it is it's looking at, that it's attached to. And attachment, like oil and paper, kind of sinks into the object of attachment and gets stuck to it, and it's very hard to separate. But it will separate eventually, because nothing lasts. So, and so this kind of brings up the other key concept of Buddhism, which is karma. So we talk about good karma and bad karma. So the suffering that we experience, the things that we don't want, are a result of ripening of bad karma, negative karma. And the experiences of happiness we have are the ripening of positive karma. But so while karma lies deep beneath our positive and negative experiences, like seeds in the ground, karma is conditioned by secondary causes, just like, you know, the seeds of the flowers won't ripen by themselves. They depend on the earth and water and minerals and sunshine and other factors. So if we don't know about karma, say we meet somebody and we have a positive, warm feeling towards this person, and we think that good feeling that we had from meeting that person comes from that person. We think it's something in that person that caused that to arise. And while that person had something to do with it, the main reason was that we had a positive karma with that person. We had, from the past, we created karma to experience positive. The same thing, we meet someone, automatically you don't like that person, you feel you don't like, you know, for whatever reason, you hate that person, you know. That's because there's some negative karma with that person. And it's the same with so many other sense objects that we encounter, music or visual things or food. You know, there's so many experiences of pleasure or happiness that we experience, fortunately, but we attribute that experience to the object itself, whereas the object is just playing a secondary role. The main thing is the karma. So but not knowing about karma and generally living on a fairly superficial level, we attribute that positive feeling to the object. So and because we're constantly seeking suffering, when we experience happiness with a sense object, we think that happiness comes from sense objects, so we get attached to it. And that attachment then causes us to see that object as more attractive than it actually is. It's a sort of an unrealistic mind, because it wants that thing to be as good as we think it is. And we know from experience that you know, no person or no chocolate or is intrinsically good, because a lot of people don't like that person. A lot of people don't like chocolate. You know, when I was in Nepal many years ago, you know, like some friends came over, my mother sent me some chocolate, you know, like Australian chocolate, better than you get Indian chocolate you got in Nepal. And so I took it like to the top of a hill where nobody was around, so I could have it by myself, didn't have to share it. And then on cue, automatically, 3 Nepali kids appeared out of nowhere, as I'm sort of greedily eating my chocolate. So I kind of felt, I'd learned something from my weak study of Buddhism, so I felt I had to share it. So I gave this kid some chocolate. One of the kids took it, he spat it out, hated it. So, but to my mind, the chocolate was really good. It was so good that I didn't want to share it with anybody, And it was really good from its own side, It was actually good, was sort of embedded in the chocolate. And so there's an object lesson right there, that it's my mind, my attachment projected good onto the chocolate that wasn't really there, So it exaggerated the good qualities, and it projected good qualities that weren't there onto the chocolate, That if I didn't have the karma to enjoy chocolate, like those kids didn't have, then I wouldn't enjoy it. So, but attachment then causes us to, it also sees that object as as a kind of permanent, as permanently good. That while we have the attachment, while we're focused on the object, where there's no permanence in any object. So it's a delusion, because it deludes us in many ways, and then also, attachment causes us to develop more attachment, to follow that train of, this innate feeling that we all have to experience happiness and avoid suffering. Everybody has that, and that's okay, but we have to know what actual happiness is and what actual suffering is. And the happiness that attachment identifies as happiness isn't actually happiness. It's just suffering in disguise. Sure.
I think that helps answer, I'm hearing a better sort of explanation of with the negative of the attachment to gains to this illusory, this present self. And there's an esoteric thing about reincarnation, which maybe I can offline ask you about. But what I'm wondering is related to all that, and this is all basically my understanding. We just try karma and impermanence. I'm not of the illusion that we begin at birth and end at death. Just have a different take on something. But so if someone is motivated to meditate, let's say because they are doing all kinds of things out of ignorance, they're running around with their head cut off, and meditation helps them lessen that. Is that a different thing that we're talking about? Is that a negative idea?
Well, I just want to say one thing, though, just what you said before. There's nothing wrong with being happy in this life. We should want to be happy, and Buddhism is the path to happiness. In fact, our resident teacher, who passed away a few years ago, but Geshe Tsulga, I was with him at an interview. A journalist came to interview him and said, "Why are so many Western people interested in Buddhism?" And I thought, this kind of some profound thing. He said, because they want to be happy. I was like, wow, that's actually true, I mean, everybody, we all want to be happy, and, we've tried all kinds of different things, and we've seen other people in the world try all kinds of different things, our parents, our friends, the society, and everything's just going to hell. Everything's getting worse and worse, and there's rampant aggression and destructive, and, terrorists and pollution and greed and the 1%, and, it's like everything seems to be rapidly, exponentially getting worse. And everyone's following this materialistic track, sort of, maybe you should try something different. And so, because we want to be happy, and we can see all this materialism and wealth and everything, Robin Williams, people kill themselves, you're famous, you're wealthy, you make everybody laugh, and you're just totally depressed, it's like, wow, what's going on? So why people do it? Because they want to be happy, and Buddhism is a path to happiness. You know, the first thing the Buddha taught was suffering as a diagnosis, so that you know what's wrong. So then you've got to find the cure for that. You know, like a doctor diagnosing a disease. So, but what we're doing isn't actually leading to happiness, even though we think it is. And every time we experience happiness, we're burning up our good karma. Every time a positive karmic seed ripens, it's over. This seed that brought this flower will never bring another flower. It's gone. It's dead. So if we use up all our good karma pursuing happiness, and we're not creating more, then eventually we're going to run out. Our karmic bank is going to run dry, and all that's left is suffering. So, so we have to, understand the evolution of happiness, and while we're experiencing it, not be attached to it as if it's an ultimate experience. Enjoy it for what it is, but not be fooled in thinking that's all there is, and create the cause for more, understanding where it actually comes from. Sorry, what did you just say?
I think to relate to it, so would like alleviating of suffering in the present life based on ignorance, is that kind of equated to happiness in the way you're describing that, or are those different?
Well, the thing is, when we get rid of all the causes of suffering, then what's left is happiness. The other thing about so ignorance, not understanding the nature of the mind, not understanding the nature of self, being deceived by the nature of the self, by this innate feeling of I, which doesn't really exist. Then attachment, and that coupled with the wish to be happy, that generates the concept of my happiness, that I want to be happy. This wrong understanding of the I. So then attachment to objects that seem to be the cause of the happiness. Then what comes from that is, if something disturbs our happiness, then we get angry, and then that causes hatred and anger and the wish to destroy the things that frustrate and interfere with our happiness. So that's where we see all the aggression and anger and fighting in the family and in society and between nations and in the world. It all comes really all this turmoil and destruction and fighting and aggression. It comes from ignorance, attachment, and aversion. That evolution in that order. So that's another shortcoming of attachment, because it leads to anger and hatred when something interferes with our happiness. So actually, if we don't worry about our own happiness, if we can see that somehow the happiness of others is more important than our own, that is a path to greater and greater happiness, actually. To not worry about our own happiness, to devote ourselves to working for the happiness of others, whether it's feeding the hungry, or giving away money, or following the spiritual path, trying to become enlightened. I mean, there are many different ways to do it. But I think we need to do it in the context of understanding the nature of reality, that there are past and future lives, and that there is karma, and that the actual cause of happiness is positive karma, the actual cause of suffering is negative karma, and to understand then how we create positive karma and how we create negative karma. So we create negative karma by acting under the by being motivated by ignorance, attachment, and aversion. That's where negative karma comes from, and obviously, as you can see, I can't explain it very well. So that's something for you to contemplate, in analytical meditation.
And nothing you've said is where my question came in. I mean, you're doing a good job of relating it all to what I asked. I mean, it's taking me forward my question, but I think, like I said, I can maybe ask you after about this specific aspect of two different ways I've come to understand reincarnation specifically from my background that were where my question, but I think at this point I'll drag up further what I was asking about, but
well, anyway, no, it was a great question. It's a good discussion, and I hope you don't mind joining our private conversation.
You were
Sure,
talking,
we can talk about it. Sure.
you were talking about karma, and I'm certainly not an expert on any of this, but it sounded to me like you were talking about an instance that you gave where you meet somebody and you have a nice warm connection, that this is karma that you two have had between each other, this carryover, which makes it feel kind of personified, as though, even though you're saying that my body is not me per se, that there's this flow of mind that you're talking about. So is there individual minds that are out there, or that therefore this individual mind that happens to be in this body right now has done something that had good karma, and then in the next life the still individual mind is going to reap the rewards of that individual karma, which still feels like a soul, exactly, and it's like, how does that, is that the correct perception of what you're saying mind is?
Well, as I said before, each of us has our own individual stream of consciousness that is beginningless and endless, and each of us, in the mind of each of us, there's ignorance, attachment, aversion, and many other positive and negative mental factors, 51, which I mentioned before. So this mind that we have now is in a human body. But we haven't always been human. In previous lives, we've been everything. There's no beginning. So we have been a cat countless times, infinite times, because there's no beginning. We've been dog, we've been worm, we've been insects, we've been people, we've been nice people, we've been horrible people. We've been hell beings, we've been hungry ghosts, we've been long-life gods. Within cyclic existence, there are 6 realms, and we're constantly death, and we've been being reborn and dying in one or other of these realms since beginningless time. Each of us has. So, under the influence of karma. So is everybody else. So, and all of us in this room have, we're all together here for a reason. That we've been together before. That we have some kind of karmic connection from previous lives, or in some cases even from this life. We've met before and we haven't met for a while, and now we're meeting again. So, and we've been each other's child, we've been each other's mother, we've been each other's father, we've been each other's friend, we've been each other's enemy, we've been everything in human lives, in animal lives. I've been your cat, I've been your dog when you were human, and vice versa. I mean, there's no limit to the terms and cons of it since beginningless time. So we've created all these different karmic connections with each other, positive and negative, from previous lives. So when we meet again for the first time in this life, there's some karma between us. If it's if it's not strong, as in most cases it's not, there'll be no flicker of recognition. But if it's stronger, if it's closer, if the bond was sort of tighter in the past, positive or negative, then we're going to have that kind of recognition, a positive, warm feeling, or an instant aversion.
So let me try to narrow this. Can I
Sure, absolutely.
narrow the question?
Sure.
I guess my question is when this body is no longer existing,
Yeah.
does this stream of consciousness, is it still an individual stream of consciousness, or does it become a piece of a greater consciousness where it's really not I have an individual consciousness, which makes it still me? It feels like it's still ego, it's still I, it's still this individual, as opposed to as opposed to this, like we're really all connected in this consciousness.
Well, we're connected. It doesn't, when you die, when we all die, our mind goes on according to our own individual karma. It doesn't merge into the great ocean of collective consciousness or something, you know. And when you become enlightened, when you become a Buddha, you're your own Buddha with your own beginning of history as a sentient being, even though your mind, your consciousness has the same enlightened qualities as all the other enlightened beings, all the other Buddhas. Still, you followed your own path to enlightenment. Again, if any karma that we've created is never lost, it's always in our mind until it ripens and it's experienced, or until it's purified. With positive karma, it can be destroyed. We can, by anger, by wrong views, but we can destroy it like burning seeds in a fire. They don't ripen; they're destroyed by the fire. So we can destroy positive karma by certain negative states of mind. In the same way, we can purify by doing certain practices. We can purify previously created negative karma, again like burning seeds, so that it never ripens, so we don't have to experience that negative result. So this is all part and parcel of the practice of Buddhism, to understand about karma, to stop creating negative karma, to purify or destroy negative karma that's already been created before it has a chance to ripen, to strengthen the positive karma and protect the positive karma that we've created in the past, and to create more. So this is all comes down, and it's really based on the recognition of what constitutes negative karma, what constitutes positive karma. What causes us to create negative karma and to stop doing that? What causes us to create positive karma and to do more of that? But each of us has our own discrete stream of consciousness. So, karma is definite in that negative karma always produces suffering, and positive karma always produces happiness. There's no crossover there. And the karma that we've created is expandable. That negative karma, if we just leave it to fester in our mind, it gets stronger and stronger. So, and positive karma too. If it's not destroyed, if it's dedicated properly, it can become stronger and stronger. So karma has this expandable quality. We can't experience the result of karma we haven't created. So if we want to get a good result, if we haven't created the karma to have that good result, it's not going to happen no matter what we do. Similarly, if we haven't created negative karma, we can't experience that suffering. And then the karma created, unless it ripens or it's destroyed one way or another, it remains in our mind. And our mind is formless, so there's no limit to the size of our karmic bank. And it's vast. Every moment we're creating karma, every moment of every day of every life. And there are beginningless lives since beginningless time. So it's kind of mind-blowing thing, the whole concept. And, you know, it's hard to get our minds around. In fact, we never will because it's limitless. But to understand, it takes a lot of thinking about and studying and actually trying then to practice to see if it's true or not. Because, you know, if we've experienced something, if we have some first-hand experience of something, we can understand that that's true. And we can also, you know, hear about things or think about stuff and do the wisdom of contemplation and analyze and come to conclusions that this is right and this is wrong. And then if something is, a phenomenon is more subtle than that, then we just have to take it on reliable authority. But in the end, we have to put teachings into practice and try and prove them true or false for ourselves. And in that way we know. We can have confidence in what the Buddha taught through our own experience.
Just to pick up on one of the concepts that she was talking about was like, did you say there was no like concept of universal mind in Buddhism, like the Atma and like the Atma in like the Vedic teachings, you know, where there's a universal mind that like to strive to get to the expanded mind of all consciousness, kind of like in the, like what did the Buddha's experience
Well, the Buddha grew up in that.
mind?
The Buddha grew up in that environment, right?
Yeah.
With those teachings, and he felt that there was something missing. That's why he went off to search for his own truth, because he felt that those Vedic concepts weren't the whole story. And so there are elements of that, aspects of that that he found were true and contained in his teachings. But in general, he refuted a lot of those concepts, you know, I think. Because the Atma, the self, he said there's no self as explained, no permanent independent self. And that there's no universal consciousness that we're all a part of. That there's an enlightened consciousness that we can all attain, but even as enlightened beings, as Buddhas, we have our own, I don't know, personality, for want of a better word, I guess.
There's a net of these mind streams that are always crossing each other's paths. Yeah. Throughout all eternity, there's just this.
Like in this life, you meet all kinds of different people, animals and insects.
It's just a net of all these things. That
Yes.
That, you know, sometimes it's lifetimes. You know, it could be eons before they intersect again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Isn't the enlightened mind the one that feels connected to everything as if it was a universal mind?
Well, the enlightened, you know,
I mean, I've
I'm talking about what the enlightened mind is, but it's, the reason we become enlightened is to enlighten and to help all sentient beings. So, and we have to fear all beings, whether we know them or not, and that's what we call the highest level of motivation, bodhicitta, the determination to reach enlightenment for the sake of all sentient beings. And we feel other sentient beings suffering, even with more compassion. We have more compassion for other sentient beings than they have for themselves. The Buddha has more compassion for us than we have for ourselves. And and you're right, there is that feeling of connection with each and every sentient being, but the minds are still separate. They're not the same mind. Is that what you're saying?
It's kind of a place where I thought that in Buddhism kind of overlap, you know, being this bodhicitta. But
Yeah, I
I
don't
will
know anything
accept
about
what you're saying about
Advaita.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know
which
anything
is
about
that's the part of the Vedas that
Yeah.
believes in the universal mind. I've always thought of it as you know, that there's an overlap between the two in the enlightened mind. But
Yeah,
that's
maybe,
just from
I've
reading
never
it,
heard
not
lamas
from
teach.
personal.
I've never heard lamas
Okay.
teach that, so
And then,
I'm not sure.
the other thing I wanted to say just about mind, I think that, at least for me, if I think of mind stream, the fact that it's constantly changing, you know, that the karmic seeds, new karmic seeds are coming in, and ones are ripening, and ones are and ones are expanding, it helps me to not identify it too much as an I. I mean, it's just as likely that I'm Eileen now, but tomorrow I'm a dog. You know, like,
Well, hopefully not tomorrow.
you know, I mean, but I mean, it helps me, it's kind of a new concept even for me over the last year or so.
Yeah.
To not even think, so you have connections and you have karma with people, but to realize that it's constantly changing. And so it helps to not so much identify that mind stream as your I.
Yeah,
You know?
you're right, yeah. The thing is that there is a self, but the self that we normally identify as self doesn't exist as we normally identify it. You know, there's a self that talks, there's a self that sits, there's a self that walks, but it's not this permanent, independent, self-existent self that our ignorance projects. It's this ever-changing association of body and mind that's totally progressing either up or down, I guess, as you described.
My own experience. So there's, I have experienced that there's happiness that I experienced, but that happiness is tricky because when I lose that happiness, it turns into anger. And so that, I think, kind of tells me that that wasn't really true happiness. And then there's happiness sometimes from meditation experiences that can never be taken away and it never turns into anger. It never.
Yeah, I mean, there's two kinds of happiness. There's the worldly happiness,
For sure, yeah.
which never lasts, and it always deteriorates, and it turns into suffering or dissatisfaction. And then we have, whatever brought it about, we have to go through those motions. We have to do the work to get it back again. And sometimes it doesn't even come back again. Or if it does come back, maybe it's not as good as it was the first time. So, you know, with the worldly thing, the work never stops and the happiness never lasts. Whereas with the Dharma practice, the happiness gets better and better, and the more you work at it, it gets better and better. And eventually, the work stops and the happiness lasts forever. So completely opposite. So that's why we think one's a lot better than the other. Okay, so I think we're getting close to the end of the time. So you know, I don't think anything I said was much benefit to anybody, but it was good for me to try and clarify some of these ideas in my own mind. So even if it didn't come out with what I said, so thanks for the opportunity. So we have some concluding prayers that we do.
Please turn to page 39. For the Thanksgiving mandala offering. Saji poke chukching metok drum re rabling jinye de gyampa sange jing du make de uwargi droku nam dak jing la chopa sho je tun lam Gya Padang Lozang Ten Pedrun Me Sasumgi Drowe Mun Sel Tak Tu Negyu Chik Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami. From my two collections, vast is space that I have amassed from working with effort at this practice for a great length of time. May I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose minds, wisdom, eye is blinded by ignorance. Even if I do not reach this state, may I be held in your loving compassion for all my lives, Manjushri. May I find the best of complete graded parts of the teachings, and may I please all the Buddhas by practicing. Using skillful means drawn by the strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness from the minds of all beings, with the points of the path as I have discerned them. May I uphold the Buddha's teachings for a very long time, with my heart going out with great compassion in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread, or once spread have declined. May I reveal this treasure of happiness and aid. May the minds of those who wish for liberation be granted bounteous peace, and the Buddha's deed be nourished for a long time. By even this graded course to enlightenment completed, due to the wondrous virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their children, may all human and non-human beings who eliminate adversity and make things conducive for practicing the excellent paths never be parted in any of their lives from the purest path praised by the Buddhas. Whenever someone makes an effort to act in accordance with the tenfold Mahayana virtuous practices, may they always be assisted by the mighty ones, and may oceans of prosperity spread everywhere. In that snow mountain encircled land, source of every benefit and joy, may Lord Tenzin Gyatso Chen Rizik remain in life till samsara ascend. Pray to spontaneously fulfill all wishes. Savior of the snowland teachings and transmigratory beings, who extensively clarifies the path that unifies emptiness and compassion, to the lotus in the hand, Lord Tenzin Gyatso, I beseech, may all your holy wishes be fulfilled. Page 49, short long life prayer for Lama Zopa Rinpoche. You who uphold the subduous moral way, who serves as the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjunath's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplishes magnificent prayers honoring the three jewels, Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please, please, Lord. May I swiftly, having gained Guru Buddha state, place each and every sentient being without exception in that state. Precious Supreme Bodhi Mind, may it where unborn arise, and where born never decline, but increase forevermore. Page 75, Miktema. Mig mei tse wei der chen chen rezik, dream kiam pei wang po jam pel yang, gam chen ke pei zu gian song ka pa, lo zang drak pe jabla so wade. Thank you very much, Nick.
Thank you very much.
Hello everyone. Nick, thank you very much for coming today. It's always lovely to have you teach here. So a couple of announcements. Geshe Tenli is at the moment in Germany. He's having teachings with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So it's basically, this is a time for him to receive teachings from his guru. So it's a marvelous opportunity for him, and it is so extremely valuable for us, as he will bring back all those teachings. That sounds like I just want to make money, but we have his tickets were sponsored, his hotel was sponsored. However, his airline tickets weren't sponsored. So it'd be lovely if you want to contribute to it on PayPal. Just put a note in or an envelope in the donation box. That would be very much appreciated. There will be. I want to make a quick announcement about Doug. Doug, stand up. Doug is a newly appointed our volunteer coordinator. So if you're interested in any volunteering, please contact Doug. We'll put an announcement out in the newsletter as well, and we'll soon have a email address called volunteers@kurukulla.org. So that will go to Doug.
That's the worst job in the thing.
I know. I tricked him into it. Yeah, I know. Now Scott's in favor. I'll announce Scott as well. He's our marketing coordinator. So if you have any events, ask questions about events. So you'll hear from Scott. And I also have their flyers for His Holiness the Dalai Lama. There are still tickets available for both these events. One at the TD Garden on November 1st, which is a general public talk. And then he's got the teaching on the 8 verses of thought transformation on a Thursday from 9 a.m. till 3 a.m. So it's wonderful. I mean, it's such an amazing opportunity to get that full day teaching. Then just an announcement for Geshe-la's a retreat at Milarepa Center. He's going to be teaching on the 6 perfections and how we can apply them in our daily lives and build them. That's at Milarepa from September 12th to September 14th. And you'll see, I'll have a little link in the newsletter for folks to go there. And then just by the way, I also saw on Milarepa Center, they are looking for an SPC. So if anyone's interested in moving up to Vermont, it's beautiful there. Highly recommend it. Yes, there you go. Thanks, Nick. Yes. Oh yeah, Geshe will be back on Thursday. I'll add that in the newsletter as well. It would be lovely if people can be here at the center to welcome him, or if you can even make it out to the airport. He's arriving at 7:10, so roughly 8 o'clock at the airport, and should be 8:30 here. Yeah, yeah. PM. Yes. Okay. Any other questions? Just find me outside again. Thank you so much, Nick.